And the Arcturians are crazy intelligent. They're on a whole other level. When you start communicating with these energies, you literally feel this smart for reals. Hi, everyone. We're going to talk about shifting timelines with the Arcturians, and I am super pumped. When you hear people talking about the shifting timelines on Earth, I guess that would refer to different outcomes with the collective, what's going to happen on Earth, etc. I find it a bit confusing personally. I'm like, okay, shifting timelines. Well, first of all, I guess you would have to believe that time is actually real. And so when you talk with the angels and you talk with your spiritual team who operate in a place where there is no time, and your soul is operating in a place where there is no time, and then all of a sudden on Earth we're talking about time. So that part of it is maybe what confuses me, since I'm talking with a lot of the angels a lot of the time, and spirit guides, and my loved ones. My Nana pops in from time to time, just give me some doo-doo on whatever I'm doing wrong at the time. Knows I'm using the word time a lot, but like I've always said, head on out and ask the people that live in the Amazon that haven't even been a part of Western society how old they are. They're probably going to tell you they don't know, and age isn't even a thing, and they don't have a watch, and they don't have a clock, and they don't have a calendar, and they don't operate within temporary confines of time. They operate in a place that is now. They're in the present moment. So when you're operating in the present moment, then you're not thinking about time. You're not thinking about the past likely that much, and you're not worried or thinking about the future all that often. So when I look at these shifting timelines, I didn't know what to expect when I was channeling the Arcturians about this topic. And it was pretty fascinating to find that what they wanted to discuss a lot about is about where you place your attention and your focus. And that will gauge and predict where you're going to be. So some are going to focus on the chaos. Some are going to be a part of the chaos. And some are going to move out and live off grid in a different country, somewhere else. Okay. So depending on where you place your attention and your focus is going to depend on your timeline. All right. So many of you guys know that the Arcturians and the Pleiadians are the top two starseed origins that I see playing out on Earth. And when I've checked in with several other mediums, they tell me the same thing. So we're not seeing a huge amount of people that come to us that have had Blue Avian lifetimes or Orion lifetimes. The mass majority are Pleiadian, Arcturian. Lately, I've been seeing quite a bit of Sirian from Lily's channel, because Lily has strong Sirian lifetimes. And so I'm like, I haven't seen so many Sirians come to me for a reading in my life. I'm like, oh yeah. They're drawn to Lily's energy and Lily's content because these are the Sirian lifetimes. And the Arcturians are crazy intelligent. They're on a whole other level. When you start communicating with these energies, you literally feel this smart for reals. I'm not joking. I'm not joking, guys. But they don't see it like that. They don't judge us like that. But I'm like, holy Toledo. Like they're incredible telepathic communicators. They are smart beyond anything that I can comprehend. And sometimes I'll see them with like a diamond type star right here, and sometimes not. And they're not interested. I'll tell you what they're not interested in, where we are interested in on Earth: eating food, okay? Having huge emotional range, feeling different emotions. I don't feel or see them having a lot of emotional range. They're aware of what's going on anywhere they want to place their focus. So they know exactly what's going on everywhere. All right, the Arcturians, why are we going to be experiencing different realities on Earth at the same time, or shifting timelines? Okay, so you look at the baby boomers. They're having quite a different experience on Earth right now than, say, the millennials or younger generations, right? Why is that? Does anybody have any answers to that? Okay, because of what they were or weren't exposed to, and been homeless off and on for 9 years, living with old people, complaining and not actually seeing what these people are dealing with because of what they put into play. Mm-hmm. And now we could blame the boomers. Yeah, that would be the easy out, wouldn't it? But we're also looking at the politicians, the presidents, the WEF. We're also looking at the elites, the wealthy that want control of the masses, right? And they're the ones at the very top with the strings. Government's lower down, banks are lower down, but it's all working together. And so ultimately, maybe this needed to happen in order for exposure, to see the writing on the wall, to have the heavy people and the heavy things that they're doing come to the surface and come into the light, and for people to wake up and become aware of what's going on in the world, right? And so their timeline is vastly different than the younger generations. In my experience, I grew up with the baby boomers. Okay. And I am looking at the younger generation, like I'm the middleman, and I'm like, interesting. When things are hitting the shitter, the blame is being placed on the boomers, or it's being placed on the immigrants, or it's being placed on the politicians. But ultimately, it's a whole network being played right now. Digital currencies next, bank accounts controlled, 15-minute cities. Get ready to rumble. You think we have freedoms now? Get ready to see those tested and taken away fairly soon. So shifting timelines are going to happen drastically over the next 5 years. I do see around 2030 and then 2031, we start to come out of it, and or things get better. Or in some countries, we have people put in place that actually care about the people instead of sending money off to be laundered over in the Ukraine. They know that digital currency is coming in, so the money to the Ukraine comes back in, purchases of homes, apartment buildings, assets that will carry the weight of when this shift happens with the digital currency. And if you guys haven't noticed already, some banks aren't even taking cash anymore. 150 banks closed in Australia under one bank because they are no longer needing locations. Banks are going to love this. They're all in tandem with each other. And the banks are going to be closing their doors. I've even noticed them having less and less tellers. The tellers don't even bother to dress up anymore. They're wearing blue jeans because they know their days are numbered, because they know that they're going to be sitting behind a desk on a phone in the future with no actual face-to-face contact. So there will be no banks. There will be no tellers. And that's going to be a lot less cost on the banks. And then we're going to be using our credit cards more, which means then the banks make more money. So have a look around. It's a different shifting of timelines coming. And I don't say this to drop our frequency. I say this for us to gain knowledge and then make different decisions in the future, not only for yourself, but for the collective. So the collective would be more like, deciding to vote for a different party, or which is going to impact the collective. If we looked at picketing or protesting, that's with the collective. Now, individually, that's a whole other different timeline, isn't it? And individually, you yourself, your family, your small grouping, your life, right? That's a whole other different timeline and different decisions being made for you and your family members, which is going to alter your timeline separate from the collective timeline. You might hang back and do nothing. You might decide not to vote or participate in the collective at all. And that is of your free will choosing to do so. There's no judgment there. And I've come this far because the angels have really schooled me over the years. Constantly hearing them. Allow other people to be as they choose, Kristin. One thing after I just said that I'm hearing from my team is a lot of people won't even know what's really going on until afterwards or further down the line when really it's too late. And they think it's great using their debit and their credit and not using cash. But when that's removed, there's no payments under the table. There's no stockpiling for a rainy day. Everything is digital. Everything's online. And everything's available information-wise for the corporations and the governments to see. And there's a lot of division going on, isn't there? That's something I noticed in the beginning of this many years ago. And I noticed that in other spiritual groups. I'm like, wow, these are supposed to be positive spiritual groups. And yet there's so much division and negativity being posted here. And that's when I decided that's it. I'm taking things into my own hands. I'm going to create my own spiritual group. I'm going to keep it super high vibrational. And I'm going to create courses and classes that are going to be super high vibrational and informational with a lot of information from spirit. And so I decided that I was going to try and bring people together. That's what I chose to do. And so we have decisions to be made in the future, don't we? There's going to be collections and groupings of people that get together that will band against the system, but they're going to have to operate underground in the future on our behalf. And then we can decide if we want to help fund them or not. It's kind of like the trucker convoy that happened in Canada, where they blocked off the highway into the US and they stopped the flow of millions of dollars because the Canadian government was closing the borders for 2 years. And then they stopped the truckers from working because they weren't willing to get vaccinated and they were crossing the border. And so when that happened, boy, oh boy, did people donate to them millions of dollars. And that was frozen by the government. We don't know where that money went. And several people's bank accounts were frozen as well. I believe it was just over 200 bank accounts. So it'll be an interesting time in the future when there will be those who are willing to sacrifice themselves for the collective, for all of us. You know, I don't see the next 2 months. Still a little early, and it depends on the country, right? So one country will potentially bring in a different leader who's going to be focusing on the people and not be interested in digital currency. And then another country is going to go full throttle. Lots of immigration is going to flood into the country because they're all going to vote for them. They're going to introduce digital currency. And I'm noticing the Western countries are trying to have people give up their guns, which is, again, another way or form of giving up their power and control, right? So it'll be interesting days ahead. So some countries are going to fare better than other countries is what I see. And that'll be interesting to see. But I've always known this. When you look at the world, if enough countries get on board with everything being digital and possibly even a universal money system, which I don't see coming in my lifetime, by the way, but we also have potential of universal basic income coming like $2,000 a month from the government. We all think that that would be great, but then now you were controlled more by the government, right? And if they decide not to pay, or they decide to freeze your bank account because you're talking against anybody, or you're saying something, or you made a Facebook post, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And with AI coming into place real fast and heavy, taking a lot of jobs away from people, there's going to be a lot of people laid off, and AI will take over, right? So how are we going to fund ourselves? So we might be forced into that position where we have to take a handout from the government, which means more control over the populace to move us in the direction that they see best. Is it for us, or is it for them? Each of us is vibrating on a different frequency. Okay. And this is what the Arcturians see when they see us. This is what the angels see when they see us. Some of us are extremely bright lights, and the angels will show them watching us from outer space and viewing us. And it's so bright they can see us from a far distance away. Whereas some of us are maybe more sub-existing or stagnant in frequency. But irregardless, no matter how heavy which one of us is, this light is still here. So the Arcturians are letting us know that each of us are vibrating on a different frequency. We are energy housed in these vessels purposefully, and for only a moment in this brief time spent here. They put time in brackets. Some of us will give focus to the head future, and some of us will focus on the higher vibrational things. Depending where your focus lies will bring you into a different timeline. This timeline may look somewhat different from one person to another. It is important to try your best to focus on what you wish to create. As your intentions, thoughts, awareness, and energy moves in this direction. So whatever you're thinking of the most, whatever you're focusing or watching the most, you are sending your attention to it. So when everybody was like, ooh, Trump, several years ago, oh, he'll never get in. They used to talk about him and then surprise, surprise, he got elected because everyone was sending their attention in that direction. And I think about Trump, and I think to myself, if he gets in, he'll have 4 years. And if he serves those 4 years, if he makes it through, we're just putting a pause on the elite plan for humanity for 4 years. After he goes, we're going to have somebody else come in that the populace absolutely adores and loves to beat out the Kamala Biden camp, which is clearly having their own agendas. And I think that those are in alignment with the WEF and the elites. 100%. The borders could have been closed up. Abortion rights could have been taken care of and changed by this point. And so they're doing what they want to do. And we're all a part of their party and their journey. And the choices that they've made have impacted a lot of countries worldwide, where the cost of living has now skyrocketed and the quality of life or the middle class is not the same as it once was. As your intentions, thoughts, awareness, and energy moves in this direction, so shall you make it so. This is the law of attraction. So there's a difference between your timeline and the collective timeline. And where you place your attention and your focus and what you're drawn towards is important. So your intuition and your gut feeling, your internal guidance system might guide you to go and get a sign and go out and walk the streets with everybody else and try to be heard. Whereas your gut feeling might tell you, hang back, go out for a walk in the woods and take in nature for the day. So some of our timelines or states of consciousness will determine who will step forward to buck against the agenda being played out on Earth at this time, and who will step back, possibly relocating outside city limits, living on the land, owning or not owning when living on the land, or living off grid to disconnect from the intensity that will continue to ensue. So some of us are going to lean into it and buck the current and go. And some of us are going to detach and move outside the city limits and disassociate from it, focusing on our own timeline only. Do not allow your energy to be drained or sink low for a lengthy period of time. Follow your intuition. You will know the right action steps to take when the time comes. You notice how blunt, direct they are? That's the Arcturians. As far as timelines are concerned, some of us are going to have some really enjoyable days ahead. We're going to have the money will flow in. You've been focusing on abundance. Maybe you're working from the Abundance book by John Price. You're operating, you're doing something new, something different, which is generating a lot of abundance for you. You've met some people. Now you've all bought a piece of land together. You're working in unison off grid. You're growing fruit and veggies, and it's a wonderful, blissful time. And you do homeschooling, and everybody works in unison with each other. And the nature and the land is so grounding and so peaceful. And some of your timelines are going to be so magnificent. And some of your timeline is maybe going to be stuck in the middle of this large city, which is now having constant bombardment of people on speaker phones protesting. Your taxes keep going up. The gas keeps going up. The food keeps going up. The rent keeps going up. So it might be a completely different timeline from one person to the next. When you look at the baby boomers, their timeline right now is, oh, I'm noticing the hydro bill going up and the groceries going up, but I have that extra buffer so I can afford that. For some of the other baby boomers, they didn't save for that extra. They thought $3,000 a month is going to cut it, and it ain't cutting it as their rent increases or their mortgages increase and they don't have their house paid off, etc. I think it's really important to talk about these things. I think that we can see the writing on the wall. And as long as we have the information and we're educating ourselves as to what's going on, we can at least make better decisions for ourselves and our own timelines moving forward. And I think that that's the most important thing. All right, you guys, I'll see you in a week. We're going to be jumping in off the deep end and talking about bringing about success. And I think part of success is bringing people together, helping people, help yourself, help others. And we're going to be talking about that in the future. And this isn't just about getting a good job or a good career or getting good money. This is much more than that. All right, you guys. Love ya. Love ya and leave ya. Bye.